So I'm very excited. Been waiting for this day a long time. Well, ever since we moved into the house. The dream has been to have solar panels and a battery. If you've followed any of our videos in the past few months, you'll know that this house costs an absolute fortune to run. We've got electric radiators everywhere, and they are not cheap at all. This winter has cost a fortune, and it's just not sustainable at all. So we are planning on living here for a while. You'll be surprised to know, again, if you're a follower of the channel. So it's a no-brainer, really, getting solar panels and a battery. They're being installed by Heatable. So that's what's happening today. They're starting the install. These are the rails that are going in now. But let's just rewind and I'll show you the start of the installation. Unsurprisingly, there's quite a lot of stuff involved in an installation. The main bits were 30 450 watt REA Fusion2 bifacial solar panels, 2 Alpha ESS 5 kilowatt inverters with 2 10.1 kilowatt hour batteries. As well as that, there's the rails, brackets, cables, bird proofing, boxes of bits, and even sticky labels to put on all the high voltage stuff at the end. This is Richard dropping it all off on the weekend before installation started.
So we're up on the roof. This is Brad, and Hi. Brad's going to talk through the installation process of the brackets, how we set it out, and then we move forward to get the rails in.
Okay. So pretty much we measure out, obviously, the size that we need. The hooks are normally 600mm apart. Two screws into each hook. The hooks connect to the rafters. Once you've laid out all the hooks, we'll then get the rails on, fix the rails to the to the hooks. Once they're on, then we can install the panels, which then attach to the rail. Easy as that.
These tiles look really odd to me.
They're concrete, so they're fairly strong.
They're hard wearing.
Yeah.
And the good thing is, the way the brackets sit under, it still stays flush, so there's no gap. Some tiles you have to sort of shave the bottom end sometimes, but this one's perfect.
This side's fully installed over it. So what do you need, one more?
Yeah, just lift it up. I'll strap it. Right, I need the phone, mate.
What don't I show you why?
Beautiful. I think these ones are about 60, 70. It's not like Tesla's, but it's good.
Yeah, straight up here, mate, yeah.
The rails are quite straightforward to go on. Okay. As you can see, it's just clips that clip onto these bits here. The panels on this roof are landscape.
Okay.
So the edge of that panel will be about here, and then another panel will start, and it'll be about here. We're making actually really good progress with this roof. It's not too kind of hard. These tiles are relatively easy to push up and pull back down again.
Those are the joiners?
Yeah,
okay.
So that goes on top of the rail.
Okay.
About halfway, another rail will come in to join it. Drill those in, and it just makes it a bit more solid, really. Happy with it so far?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, all looks good.
3 more here, and then
Oh, look.
6 this side, 6 that side over there.
Catch it back there. Lovely.
This is the first of the batteries, and that's the inverter on the top, isn't it?
This is the inverter on the top, yeah. That's been screwed down, and I'm just making off the battery connections that link from this to the inverter.
Okay.
And then just there's about 20 minutes of cabling worth of stuff that goes into each one before you then start running back to the fuse board. So yeah, these are the battery terminals for that into the inverter. That would be your backup when you do eventually get the EPS. This is your AC connection. This is your main breaker that will turn the battery and the inverter on together.
Okay.
These are your both terminals for your PV inputs, so it's 2 strings per inverter.
Okay.
This is your main DC switch, which will turn the strings on to feed into the inverter.
Okay.
And obviously, because these are parallel ones, the Wi-Fi dongle has been capped off and the parallel's there. So eventually, once we've got the other one in, this will be unscrewed, and there'll be a connection kit that goes between the two, so they act like one.
Okay.
And then behind here as well would be all of basically the BMS cabling and your CT cablings to measure the load of your house. The BMS will be connect this to that so they can see each other.
Okay.
There's a LAN port if you wanted it wired Ethernet rather than over a Wi-Fi dongle.
Okay.
And then, yeah, that's it for the cabling on there. And then obviously once it is all up and running and stuff, you have all of these lights on the front, and they will all be white when it's working. And if anything isn't working, it will be red.
Now I realise we're going to keep talking about a parallel system, and I don't think I've explained exactly what it is. So let me show you with some terrible drawings. Okay. So, first of all, we've got our house. Oh dear, that's a terrible drawing, isn't it? Sorry, there we go. So there's our house, and importantly, there is the sun. And we have 30 panels, God, on the roof there with a 13.5 kilowatts of potential solar power we can get. So that's all great. Now what happens is the solar panels, that's DC, that has to be converted into AC to be used by the house or back to the grid. So you have to have something called an inverter, and the inverter will only manage 5 kilowatts. It's only going to process 5 kilowatts of all of that power. There is a battery which is 10 kilowatt hour, so it can put some of that directly into the battery. That's DC, so that's DC to DC. It doesn't have to convert anything there, so that can all go into the battery. But once that battery is full, then you've only got 5 kilowatts to play with, and really you're going to be, if you maxed out that, then you're kind of wasting 8.5 kilowatts, which is not ideal. So 5 kilowatt inverter is absolutely fine for probably for most people actually, but we do have a particularly big array. So what you can do is you can add another 5 kilowatt inverter and of course another battery. So obviously, because I can do maths, that means we've got 10 kilowatt inverter and 20 kilowatt hour battery. So that means that if we were to max out that 13.5 kilowatts, we can actually use 10 kilowatts of that for the house and or sending it back to the grid, because the grid have told us that we can use 10 kilowatts. We've got a 10 kilowatt maximum export limit. And of course we've got 20 kilowatt hour battery here, which is lovely. So that's what it means, running in parallel. You've got 2 inverters, 2 batteries, and running in parallel means that they act as one. All good. So that's all great. So we can do a picture of me looking happy and my wife saying, "You geek."
The DC strings will come out of here into an isolator on the wall. The AC cable connection will come out here into an isolator on the wall. And then once all that's set up and ready, we can cap these off with the lids, leave them as they are. You have 3 lights on there which will show through there to show you what the state of charge on the battery is.
Okay.
And then after that you can then run the cables back to, we can feed the power in.
Sure. And the strings are going to go up
The
through the
strings,
soffit, aren't they?
yes, so I haven't quite worked out what I'm going to do yet, but they will come into the isolator and then either straight up, or I might come across and up there. Depends what looks nice, what you prefer.
Sure, okay.
But yeah, once I've got the other inverter here, I can then play around with where we want to put things and how we're going to make it look neat.
Yeah, okay, great. And if we were to get another battery at some point,
Yes.
would that go under the inverter, so the inverter would then go up?
Yeah, so basically with these ones, obviously where they're in parallel, you have them 300, you need 300 from all sides basically. Okay. So there's 300 from this wall to this side, and then there'll be 300 from here to the next one.
Okay.
But obviously if you do have another battery, you just unscrew the inverter from here, take off all these terminals, lift that off, lift the new battery on top and screw that in, and then the inverter will go on top of that one, and then you just remake off all the connections.
Okay. And the 300mm, is that because of UK regs, or is that because of the battery?
It's a regulation on most systems. Some of them are different. Some of them are 150.
Okay.
Tesla's are 150. It's more of like a surrounding air. It needs to be able to, because they get quite warm.
Okay, yeah.
So it's more just like an air distribution thing more than anything.
Right, okay. So who's going to have the fun job of crawling around in the attic to...
That's the electrician's
Oh, okay, yeah.
That's the electrician's job.
Strictly outside, really.
What's the loft space like? Have you been up there?
What's the loft space like, Brad? It's quite tight, isn't it? Down the bottom here, it is tight.
I should be able to just rod straight up through, and then once I've picked it up out of the felt on a joist. So on here, there's 2 MPPTs.
Oh, I see. In the inverter?
Yeah. So I want to utilise all of them.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. Just because it's 30 panels and it works. It basically, because it's in parallel, I've got to balance them. I'll jump on it now quick, and then I can drill a hole, and then obviously that sorts you guys ready. Once I've mounted this, you can just have them hanging out.
Right, he's going to go in the loft.
He's going to go and look
He's going to go in the loft to just double check how much he needs down the other side.
Do that half because of that shading.
No, I'm talking about this bit, this one.
Yeah, which that side, right?
No, this side, I'm talking about this one.
Oh, sorry.
9 and 9, so obviously 6 and 6 is going rows there. 12 on that side, 18 on this roof that we're currently on.
Yeah.
We're just kind of mapping out where the strings are going to go at the moment.
Okay.
So you've got 2 strings on this side for 6 panels, and on this side we're going to have 2 strings with 9 panels in each. You have mid clamps that sit in between 2 panels.
Okay.
And on the end there, you have end clamps that are slightly different shape, but these ones support 2 panels.
There's a bit of fun in there, isn't
So I think I'll just raise that there, maybe shorten these a little bit,
Yeah.
drop them down, or actually might raise them up and then put these ones into 2 lower ones basically.
Okay.
This is your new fuse board that
Okay.
will just do the solar, same as what this does for the EV.
Oh, okay, great.
But it has to be separate to your EV if you want it to not discharge from the battery. So we always put these in as like a fail-safe really. So you can put them into existing fuse boards, but it's just nice that you can isolate this whole system away from your other systems.
Yeah. We're installing this up here just because if we do expand,
Yeah.
it makes it more
I thought
convenient.
it would be easier. It means that when we do come back, it's just plonking them on rather than altering the cables.
Sure.
So
Okay.
I've measured it up, and that's going to be the height of the top of the inverter, so that'll be in line. And then it just means this long one here that goes in will just be short.
Okay, brilliant. I'm terrified of heights. If I fall off the roof, it'll make good content.
How you getting on, Lee?
Not too bad.
So what's the stage we're at the moment?
So at the moment, both inverters and batteries have been connected in with the battery systems there, and I've just run the AC cables for both inverters to their isolators in black conduit, and then that runs all the way back out to where the meter cupboard is, where I've just finished the fuse board. And inside this fuse board, these ones are a new black edition ones. They just look a bit nicer than the white. And inside here, you've got your main switch, your SPD, the MCB for the SPD, and then the 2 circuits that are going to feed the inverter.
You get all the cabling done, don't you? And then you connect it all up tomorrow.
Yes,
probably, yeah?
so I'm here for 2 days, and then what I normally do is I get everything to a point to minimise any interruptions within the home, so do everything so that I can just kill the power to the main house for normally about 15 minutes. As this system's a little bit different, I've got to do a little fiddling around inside the meter cupboard, as there's already an EV charger, so it'll probably be off for about 20-25 minutes, but still not too bad in the grand scheme of things.
Okay. And yes, this is set up so the EV charger is not going to drain the battery.
No.
Is that right?
No, that's correct,
Yeah, brilliant. Okay.
4 Series. It says that they've got some kind of deal on at the moment. This light comes on the box. I press
So here's what they've done in the first day of installation. We've got all of the rails here. They've got the cabling going into the attic, and we've already got some panels up. All those there. And then if we go downstairs and look at the batteries, you'll see we've now got this quite fancy metal fuse box actually. So that's what they've done today. They've done quite a lot actually. So tomorrow they'll be able to finish off by putting the rest of the solar panels on, by obviously putting the cables down here, and then commissioning the battery. And that's going to involve probably an hour, I think, of playing around with an app, and I think doing a video call with Alpha, the company Alpha ESS, sorry. I think they go through it on a video call because these are done in parallel. That makes it a little bit more special. So yeah, so that's going to happen tomorrow. Day 2 of the installation, and it's another beautiful day. At least it will be until it all gets commissioned, and then the moment we're actually generating solar, the clouds will come. What's the most fiddly part of the roof work then?
Sometimes they're just a bit kind of the sizing of the panels. They can be a bit awkward. You have to kind of stretch over to like screw in and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
no, to be honest, they're pretty straightforward.
Okay.
It's not technically too difficult. Just have to have some sort of a bit of strength. Once you put the hooks and the rails in, that's kind of the hard work done. Putting the panels on is the easy part. Sometimes when they're landscape as opposed to portrait, it can be a bit more awkward because there's a bit more distance you have to stretch over to kind of screw them in. But
Okay. Is that the cable run then for these strings?
Yes, yes. So I'm just trying to work out the best way to not have them crossing. So because you're going to have two pipes coming this way. That one goes in there. This is going to come down, I think, come across this line, and I can just swoop down and in there. And then this side, I'll have 2 adjacent to each other, come across this line, and then they won't fully cross. One will swoop in, and then the other one will come and swoop in this way.
Okay.
I think that's the best way to not get them crossing over.
So I'll put you two.
So is that the export meter?
Yes, basically, yeah. So this is the meter that will connect the CT clamps to, which will go on your live tail around here. That basically lets it measure the load, and then the app will be more accurate. So normally we can run CT straight to the system, but with the meter it makes it very, very accurate, and you can see it down to like 0.1 kilowatts and stuff like that. So we always try to install these for more accuracy, especially in a parallel system.
Right, okay.
And then there'll just be a bit of power to it from the fuse board. And then there's an RJ45 connection in here which will run all the way to them, and then that will link them together.
So why do you have to pull these out?
I'm pulling these out because it's just easier to put them in the tube because I like to put them in containment in the loft.
Okay, yeah.
There's been times where people cut through them and it's not
That's
nice.
not good.
I tried to put them in containment to make it like you can see that it's not a TV cable.
Yeah, and less likely that a rat will chew through it.
Also that as well, yeah.
Yeah. Is that called Copex? That tubing?
Copex, yeah, flexible conduit.
Yeah. So why do you have to go in the attic now?
So now I'm just testing the one live string so that Will can carry on as he wants to start bird meshing around the panels on the far right. Because if we don't test them before and we find out there's an issue afterwards, then he would have to take the bird mesh off. So we just test this one string now so that he can carry on with the next step, and then I'm going to route all of the DC string cables through the loft and then out the soffit down to where the system is. So this is a DC clamp meter.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then it does AC as well, but you just turn it on, click the mode, go to DC, and then the red and the black. The red's positive, black's negative. Just poke on the strings, and then when we get a solid voltage, we know that it's working. If it fluctuates, then we know that there's an open circuit somewhere. So these are the DC isolators for the 4 strings that are on the roof. They've been clipped up in the loft inside Copex, and then later on they'll get stickered. I've rodded through, and then we've created 2 holes here in the soffit to come down to 2 isolators, which are obviously at that same height in case of battery expansion further on down the line. And then I'm going to fix these to the wall, run 2 more flexible Copex down and along to have your 2 strings into each inverter, and then once Will's finished on the roof, these ones will get tested, prove which voltages are which strings, and then we can manipulate which way they're going to go into each isolator, as this system needs to be balanced.
Okay, great.
So each inverter will have 1 string of 9 and 1 string of 6 so that they're equal.
Forced to step back from their roles as working royals as they didn't feel protected by the again with highs of 17.
Lee will be testing it now, but yeah, they're all plugged in, so should be starting performing straight away.
Great.
Got the last few panels on that side to put on, last 3, and then bird proofing the rest of that one. So, but yeah, this side's all complete.
So we're at the end of the second day of installation. They were hoping to actually finish it today, and they could have, but these batteries are going to be installed in parallel, and they're missing one of the chips or whatever that has to go on them. So the wholesaler made a mistake effectively, and they should have had 2 of these chips, and they've just sent 1. So they're going to have that tomorrow morning, so they're going to come back and they're going to commission it and finish off then. Okay, so it's day 3 of installation, and this is the exciting part. What's the plan today?
So today is the last day of the install, mainly just the commissioning system. We've just finished the last strings connecting into the inverters. I'm just making off a couple of last minute connections on an RJ45 that connects back to the meter. And then it is just a case of calling Alpha on their technical support line, as this system is a parallel system, so there needs to be some firmware updates from their end. Once that's all on, we can set up the app, see what the system's doing, and then it's just some last minute labelling, stickering up any warning labels, and then a full test for the electrical certification.
Okay, great. A lovely grey sky, which is what we get in England most of the year, really. But even on a day like today, we will still generate something. I reckon like 5 kilowatts we might get, but we'll see. It's all very exciting. It's exciting for me, anyway. I've been geeking out on electric cars for years, and now I'm going to be geeking out on this as well, aren't I? I feel sorry for my wife.
Can I just plug this into your room?
Yeah, of course.
That's it.
Okay. You must spend a lot of time just standing around with an app, yeah?
Yeah, most of it.
Right, okay, so verify. Okay, well, I've got a little
Lovely.
cute cat.
There we go, activated.
Okay, so go to login.
Hiya, mate.
Hi, sorry, I'm just calling back from Alpha now.
Hi, mate. Yeah, so we're all ready to go. I've set up the user account. Yeah, he sorted it all out. It all kicked in. I turned the strings on. They went in. He said that one was a little bit less than the other, but you do have a small bit of shading on certain patches. And then I'll just run through with you how the system works. So you're now on a dual supply. If you want to work on any electrics in your house, just turning them off at your fuse board may not kill the power.
Okay.
Because it can feed back through. So just so you're aware, they're your main 2 isolators for both your inverters. That will kill the AC supply to these, or in the event of it exporting, feeding back to the grid, which is when it can be backfed through there.
Okay.
Obviously, to turn off the batteries, you have a breaker here. There are ones inside there, but you don't need to turn them off. Just there's a breaker. You just twist that and pull that tab, and that will unlock, and you can turn them off from there. And there's a small silver button to turn them off. Okay. Same on that one. If you need to isolate the DC strings, just turn them, and that will kill them coming down from the roof into the inverters. And then if you do want to just kill, if you do work on your house and you just want to kill everything, then chances are just turn everything in there off, ideally. That is your main switch. If you just kill that, that will kill the meter, the power to the SPD, and then your 2 inverters. If you do ever get struck by lightning, that will go red. Okay. And then that can be replaced for a new one.
Okay, Lee has now left. He was fantastic. He was here for a long time because he had to go through everything with Alpha, and there was a little bit of a fiddly setup to do this parallel system, just because it's relatively rare, so that's why it took a little bit longer. Anyway, so we're all set up. We've got the 2 batteries here. They're doing their thing. And if we look at the app, which I'm going to be looking at a lot, aren't I, from now on, I think. So, looking at the app, you can see that the battery at the top is at 92%, or the batteries are at 92%. 2.16 kilowatts they're pulling at the moment. We've got 2.55 kilowatts from the solar at the moment. 5.5 from the grid, and our load of the house is 6 kilowatts. And you can see all the stats down here. What's pretty amazing is that we've generated today 9.14 kilowatt hours on the solar, which I feel is quite a lot, really, given it's been a cloudy day and really the system's only been working for a few hours. So I'm really, really hoping that tomorrow it's perfect weather, and then we can see what we get all day for generation. But anyway, that's going to be on a separate video because I'm going to geek out about all of this then. But I will just show you the stats. Here's the power, and I can take off all of those and just concentrate on the solar because that's the most important bit, probably. There we go. So you can see there was a gap there where they were doing the setup, and then the sun came out, and then it's pretty good generation, I think. Now all this is set up, the next step is going to be to talk to Octopus and change tariff. I want to change tariff so I can get paid for the power that I export. And they've got two tariffs. They've got a fixed one, and then they've got their outgoing intelligent Octopus, or whatever it's called. And with that one, you have the potential for earning more money because you can export when electricity is expensive, and then you get paid more. But I'll probably, for the moment, I'll probably just stay on the fixed one, and that's 15 pence per kilowatt hour. So yeah, so I'll change to that one, but I've got to wait for Heatable to get back to me with a code or something like that that I then have to give to Octopus. So anyway, that's going to be the next step. And then I can start earning some money if we even export very much. We probably won't, because the house is going to use so much, and you know, we've got a decent battery storage here to get filled up first, and then really we just export anything we don't use, of course. So anyway, it's all going to be fun. So there it is, there's the battery installation, and I hope you found it interesting. If you've got any questions at all, then let me know. Go ahead and use the code that's at the bottom of the screen if you want £150 off a solar install or £75 off a battery install. Thank you very much for watching this video. Please press the subscribe button and the bell icon to be notified of other videos. And I'll be back soon with lots and lots of stats. Bye for now.